without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboys fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, from Brooklyn. Hey, you guys any...
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
What's up, everybody? It's another show of Coast to Coast. I am your host, Pags, with my co-host, Bo. What's up, my man? Sorry for your loss last night.
Oh, man, it was rough. It was rough. But it's fine. I got some coffee. You know, we'll be all right.
Well, yeah. I mean, we might as well dive right into it. I got to watch a good portion of it. Actually, the Flyers ended. They lost last night, and I went back over to watch the game. So I kind of caught this whole second half.
Okay.
And yeah, it was close for a while. And then Michigan kind of broke it open, and they just had too much pressure on Penix, way too much pressure.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things I was worried about going in, right? I said that both sides of the line was dominated by Michigan coming in, so they were going to have Penix with a quick release. They were going to have to shut down the run game for Michigan. At the beginning of the game, they really weren't able to do that. They were actually hyper aggressive. So they were so worried about the run game that they ultimately put themselves out of position, which created some of those large plays that led to touchdowns. Then they started to settle down. It became a game, right? So if you look through the second quarter, the third quarter, like that was a tight battle the whole way through. That was kind of the game I was expecting to see. And then about halfway through the fourth quarter, you could tell that they were trying to push to catch up. And that's where mistakes were made yet again. And they throw up another 14 points. And so then the score looks like it was a crazy game, but it was actually pretty close most of the way.
Yeah, it was. I mean, really, you look at this as like maybe that extra touchdown at the end when they got the interception and went down to the 5-yard line. That really kind of iced it. I really look at it more like a 27-13 game. They were kind of running. They were driving pretty well. You know, obviously they weren't going to be able to kick a field goal on that fourth down, and that's when the interception occurred, and they ran it all the way back down to the 7-yard line. So that really did it in. That being said, it was really like a 20-13 game, 27-13 game. Maybe it would have been 27-20. Couple of key mistakes, or not mistakes, but really, I mean, 3 or 4 times Penix had the ball right where he needed to have it, and whether it was a drop or whether it was just, I turned the wrong way to catch the ball, and just it was a shame because he was able to get the ball out there and get it on the rope and get it to where he wanted it to be. And I know in the first half, I guess, they kept re-showing that one pass where he was wide open, would have been a touchdown had he turned the right way. And then also I remember seeing the 3rd and 4 where the ball was right in his hands and he just started to look for the yard marker before he caught the ball. And that was a big turnover on downs. He had to punt the ball away. And even though Michigan didn't have anything happen with that next drive, it stopped the momentum. You know, like you were moving the ball and then having those types of situations occur, it gets frustrating. And I got to imagine Penix had to be pretty frustrated because 3 or 4 times that drops were big deals. And a couple of big plays, they were able to get behind Michigan safeties and could be really a large play. 3 or 4 passes that I remember, almost the exact same play. 3 or 4 times was open, and they only really connected on it one time.
Exactly.
So, and that really showed to be the biggest issue that they had there. So
yeah, I mean, they came into this, they were going to have to play almost a perfect game, right? And they had so many self-inflicted wounds. I mean, they had penalties against them at inopportune times, lots of drops. The 4-man rush was getting to Penix. So it's not even like they were doing lots of blitzes or anything like that. Their 4-man front was getting through that offensive line, which is why Penix got beat up by the end of the game. I mean, he's out there just holding his side, waiting for the ball to be snapped, chucks it, and then just goes back to being, holding his side. So, I mean, I don't know how much you were really expecting him to do, the late minutes of that game anyway. But, if he's hurt, the odds are even lower.
Do you think, now I know that Penix has gotten a lot of publicity for being where he's at right now, and
Sure.
he's a pretty good quarterback. However, it's the fact that he was injury prone that's probably going to drop his stock in the draft. Do you think that this game helped or hurt? I don't know. Did I lose you? There you go. Do you hear me?
Yeah. Like I said, we got a windstorm here, so I might kind of come and go a little bit. But I do think it hurts his stock a little bit. To be honest, I thought he was going to be a late first rounder anyway, right? So he probably doesn't really slide. Like, had he won, he probably would have moved up to, top 12. But in the loss, he's probably like at 18 is probably about where he ends up going. And the good thing is yeah, he kind of got injured out there, but it wasn't his legs, right? So his injury prone, he's had 2 ACLs, right? So the injuries, they were ribs, and that's because he had 350-pound guys landing on him. Any quarterback, if you got an entire game of 350-pound dudes jumping on you, your ribs are going to be beat up. Like that's part of it.
Yeah.
So I don't know that the injury end of it necessarily hurts him. And he was relatively efficient. Like even with the couple of interceptions, he still threw for like 230 yards roughly. And would have been a lot more had guys actually caught the ball, because some of those strikes were way downfield. So yeah, I mean, does it hurt him a little bit? Sure. But I mean, it's probably a difference of maybe 5 positions. Like, I don't think it's going to be a huge deal. He'll still be a first round pick.
Yeah, he was 27 for 51, 255 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Now, also in the midst of that, I'm going to say I watched at least 4, maybe more drops.
Sure. And most of those were 20 plus yards down the field.
Yeah, there should have been no doubt in my mind that there could have been 350 to 400 yards of passing had he connected on some of those. Like specifically the one that we talked about in the first half where the guy just turned the wrong way, and you could tell the frustration. They showed the offensive coordinator after that. He's like, "Oh man, that was a big miss there."
Well, especially because that was a cruise in for a touchdown, because that safety wasn't anywhere near him. Right. So had he turned the right way, he grabs that. He's to the house.
Right. And then, like I said, there was 3 or 4, and the one play that he did connect on, then there was the hold, where the offensive lineman, it looked like the offensive lineman just lost the snap count. So the defender was way past him, and at that point, he just kind of grabbed him to just try to slow him down a little bit. And that's, that negated a 50 or 40-yard play there. So it was just so many different, you're right, inflicted wounds that they, self-inflicted wounds that kind of caused this to occur.
Sure.
J.J. McCarthy, 10 for 18, 140 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. He did exactly what he needed to do, was just manage the game and hand the ball off. And,
exactly.
Ultimately, when I think about Penix moving forward, though, into this draft, there's so many needs for quarterbacks. Do you think he'll go that late?
I do, and the only reason I think it happens that way is because of his age, the injury, the injuries that he's had. I think are some of the biggest things, because when you look at Penix, he is, he's the same age or older than 5 or 6 guys in the NFL already. Okay. So then all of a sudden you got to look at, how much can he evolve from where he is, right? Or is he close to his ceiling, right? Is he like a Lamar where you can form him into something, or is he Mac Jones where he comes in and he's that guy? you know what he is day one, but unfortunately, you know what he is day 10 also. Like he's that same dude. So, there's going to be some speculation on, can his game improve from where it is, or is this what he is? And not to say that what he is now isn't great, but then you have to look at, does it translate to the NFL? He does, have a history of getting hurt. So then is he going to be available? All of those things do negatively affect your draft stock. But I mean, I could still see him going, 12 if somebody was really like trying to get after it.
Well, I kind of believe that there's going to be a couple of quarterbacks that will go, and then that's going to raise his stock number, I think. I mean, just because obviously it wasn't him that was the cause of the loss. I mean, I know
No,
that there were
definitely
two
not.
interceptions, but like that last interception, I mean, obviously he needed to get the ball out as quickly as possible, because he was about to get crushed again on
Yep.
fourth down, and he
Well,
just kind of
late in the game, he's
overthrew.
just pushing to make a play. So I mean,
Right.
Mistakes happen there, but the thing is if you don't put it up, you turn the ball over anyway. So yeah.
Thanks, Freebird. Good morning to you, or good afternoon on my side. Good morning, probably on your side.
Yeah,
I know he's
my mom. My mom tunes in. It's awesome.
Awesome. Very good. Hi, Mom. Sorry for your loss, too. I got to imagine that you were a little bit upset about that as well. But, yeah, I mean, other people that kind of stood out a little bit, Blake Corum, 2 touchdowns, 134 yards rushing on 21 carries. I know he got one on a really big carry. I think that was like 50-some yards. And then so the rest is like 80 yards on 23 carries, which isn't so bad. I mean, I thought the defense did a pretty good job and wound up getting stuck. They said, obviously, that last touchdown only going 7 yards. They did get a couple of bigger plays, but there wasn't anything that really struck me as, like, oh, okay, this is it. I mean, I think their best receiver had 64 yards on 3 targets. So that was literally half of.
For sure. No, this was definitely not the TCU Georgia type of game, right? This was 2 teams that played each other well, and at the beginning and end of the game, the UW really shot themselves. But through the bulk of play, like it was a good game. All that being said, shout out to Michigan. National title is amazing. Congrats to that. Obviously, great season for the Dogs. Naturally, it was the last one in the Pac-12, so Michigan and Washington are going to see each other a little bit more often now. But yeah.
I wonder how that will do for the defense. Like, obviously, the lines. So definitely with the Big Ten, that's where the offense and defensive line are really the best, I think. Short of Alabama and Georgia, that everybody else is like, if you want to go and get offensive linemen, you get them from Ohio State, you get them from Michigan, you get them from Penn State. Anytime you've gone to the Pac-10 or Pac-12 to get an offensive lineman, it hasn't always worked out the best. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's been hit or miss.
So I feel that moving to the Big Ten, which is now the Big 25, really,
Right.
That they're going to be able to start to recruit a little bit better on the lines. I think that you're going to start to see better offensive and defensive line play from some like Oregon's and Washington and such like that, which has been one of the one of those problems that you've always had.
Yeah, I mean, do you think you do though? I mean, because although you're in the Big Ten, you're only kind of in the Big Ten. You're still, it's not like your school moved, right? So, I don't know. I don't know how much better it'll be.
I think you're going to start to see more transfer portal, because you're going to want to see guys that go up against. You want to go up against the best. So when you have, they said, sure, if I'm an offensive lineman and I'm in high school, there are a few teams that I immediately think of. I want to go to Georgia. I want to go to Alabama. Maybe I'd consider going to LSU. It's
Sure.
like then you think then I think like Oklahoma, maybe Texas or Texas Tech. You know what I mean? It's like those are also spots that I could see landing, like Penn State. Once you get beyond that, if I'm a tight end, I go to Iowa. I mean
Sure.
that's where tight ends go and you know make their bones. Everywhere else is just going to be like you're going to be the best maybe of a bad bunch. So, and I feel like that the Pac-12, yeah, if you were an offensive lineman, you didn't look for the Pac-12. You didn't look to go there
Yeah.
as the spot to hit. You wanted to go in other places. So, and I feel that now they're in the Big Ten.
Mhm.
So that's going to just change a little bit of the mindset.
Yeah, I mean, I hope you're right, because obviously in the trenches is where they come up a little bit short. Obviously, all of the skill positions, they're great, but you know, down low they need some help. So in that way, I hope you're right that making this move does create some opportunities to bring some of those linemen over. Because I mean, it's something the entire conference had trouble with to some degree. Obviously, there's some outliers, but like Utah had a good line, they had a good defense, they just couldn't do anything on offense. But yeah, I mean, hopefully you're right, because it would make for better football for sure.
Well, I think that and we're already getting Chris telling me like, hey, we're going to go to the Raiders because Brady played at Michigan. I don't care about any of that. I think Harbaugh is going to make that decision very quickly. I
Well,
think that you're going to see that.
especially now, right? So that all of that conversation definitely heats up at this point, because you have the national title is done. So he doesn't have to think about that. Now he can look towards the future. He did get his championships, and now it's not like he has unfinished business with Michigan in college, right? So now he can really decide, hey, which paycheck is better, and does he try and follow Pete Carroll and win a ring in both, right? Because he's the only one that's done it. So
No, Barry Switzer.
within the college football playoff platform, right? Because that's only
Okay, even USC did that. He did that on a football platform, like the playoff platform.
I believe it was. I believe
I
it
don't
was.
think so. I think he's been in. I think he's been. Yeah, the playoffs has only happened in the last like 8 years, right? I mean, he's been in the NFL for like 12 or so.
Yeah, well, he has been in there for like 12, 13 years. But yeah, I thought it was one of the first playoffs. I could be wrong.
Yeah,
But
so I don't think that he has. But obviously, there's a few guys that have won both,
sure.
and then there's a few guys that haven't. Like they've gone in and Spurrier is like the first one that comes to mind, and then of course then you got Alabama's coach. I can't even stand him. Like so. Yeah, he came in and just quit on his team. He's like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to go back to college. These guys suck. And so ultimately, I mean, obviously, there's got to be a little envy to his brother. You know what I mean? Especially if his brother wins the Super Bowl this year. Imagine that the Harbaughs win both of the major championships of their respective sports. You know what I mean? So I got to imagine that that's going to play a little bit of part here. And they saw the contract that he's got from Michigan. So I think that he'll probably get that. I mean, he has brought a team to the Super Bowl.
Yep.
They just didn't win. So
I mean, he lost to his brother.
right.
But yeah, no, I mean, I don't think the money's going to be the problem. It's just going to be, contract length and, the situation around whatever team he's looking at. Right. Which ones are going to want to let him have some GM control, or at least have heavy influence on player personnel, stuff like that. I mean, because he's going to be wanting as much control as possible. But at the same time, he wants to take another crack at the NFL, I would imagine, especially if his brother wins another one.
Oh yeah, I can imagine that's definitely going to be play a part. Something that I was surprised at. Uh, 1 for 10 on third down for Michigan, which
Yeah,
means that Washington was able to get off the field. However, they weren't very good on third down themselves. You
no,
know,
yeah,
2 for 14, and then 2 for 5 on fourth down. So
yeah,
you're turning the ball over on downs, and I knew that a lot. Like I said, two of those occurred at the very end.
yeah.
Of the game where so it's you really, but they were 2 of 3 going up to that, getting those extra that 1 yard. I think it was like a almost not a sneak, but it was they passed the ball off or they handed it off, and the guy got the first down and such. So there was some movement, but they just couldn't get too many
Well,
third downs.
at the end of the game, they, it was 3rd and 15, right? They had just gotten a penalty, and so then they decide to kind of do this little out and up, and it's just like, man, you need 15 yards, right? You're running this play that's 25 yards downfield. It's like, man, just you're going for it on fourth. Set yourself up for a makeable fourth down, right? Now, if you make that throw, sure, but the guy was completely covered. Like, you were not putting that ball in there. I don't care how good the throw was. So, I mean, one of those, you need an outlet guy that's down low. Go get 7-8 yards so that it's 4th and 7, not 4th and 15, because then all of a sudden you see exactly what Michigan did. They had their front four. They dropped guys to that, the first down marker, and they're like, yeah, we'll give you anything underneath because you're not going to pick up a first down. I mean, so there were some play call things that were just like, man, you kind of didn't set yourself up for success there. Now, granted, again, it was at the end of the game. It was kind of already out of hand and, out of reach, I should say, at that point. But still, I mean, some of the play calling comes into question too, because you're just like, oh man, like you could have set this up to be a much more manageable fourth down than 4th and 15, because let's be honest, 4th and a mile, there's not a lot in that playbook, right? You got like a half a dozen plays that even work in that scenario, and the defense isn't going to be shocked by any of it.
Right.
Like, they know
I
what's
mean,
coming.
that's true. And I understand kind of why they did it that way, but it wasn't anything that they were going to be able to fix. And ultimately, I thought that they should have done more slants. They
Yeah,
should have done more things to be able to get the quick release. The fact that he had to go back there for 3.5, he's taking 7-step drops from from the shotgun position. That's a big deal. You know what I mean? Obviously, now you're throwing it 10 yards down the field before you even get to the line of scrimmage now.
exactly.
So that was part of the issue, but they needed to stay away. I mean, Michigan only got 1 sack, but
Yeah,
what I can't see here is how many times that quarterback was hit.
yeah. I mean, he definitely, sacks are funny, right? It's a great stat, whatever. But the stat that doesn't get highlighted that really needs to is quarterback hurries. That's the one I worry about, right? Sacks are great. You got home, somebody missed a block, whatever, right? Awesome. But if you are consistently hurrying a guy, if you can move a quarterback off their spot, that's where turnovers happen, right? That's where that's where all the bad things happen. Again, sacks are great, but if you have 5 sacks, but those were the 5 times you got home, who cares? But if you got 1 sack and you have 40 quarterback hurries, I'll take that stat line every time.
Yeah, and that's what happened. I mean, there was
Absolutely.
hurries all game long, all game long. It was really just too much for him to handle. And then, of course, like I said, he was getting the ball out just in the nick of time, so
Yep.
it wasn't like late hits. They were hitting them right in
No, they were legal
stride
hits.
there.
Yeah, they were legal hits. He was getting lit up.
Yeah, and every time just getting up, holding his hip and holding
Yep.
his ribs, and he was favoring the one side, and I really saw a toughness in him
Hmm.
during this game, which made me think that you know beyond the ACLs,
Yep.
that that may have helped his cause. No, you're right. He's 23 years old, so it's not like he's a youngin, you know.
Exactly.
But honestly, I feel like with the age comes the wisdom. You know what I mean? So maybe he's more ready for that time. Again, the hardest part is that he's not super mobile. I didn't see him trying to run with the ball very much.
No, he's
So
not.
he's
He needs a line. I mean, he can do something similar to Geno.
correct.
I guess I should say.
And that's going to
Right?
be
Like
that's going to be the toughest of going.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's going to
Oh,
be the toughest part about him going to any team. You know what I mean? They got to have a line for him already, and that's if they had a line, they probably would have already had a quarterback.
yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah, no, I mean that's the thing is he definitely has that Geno vibe to him he's not hyper athletic, but he can get out of the way. Like if you give him a rushing lane, he can go make a play, but he's not outrunning anybody, right? So he can extend a play, he can make some things happen, but he's not going to be, that athletic guy that can go, scamper 35 yards down the field. Like that's just not who he is. He can tear you up with his arm for sure if you give him time. So if somebody can put a line in front of him, I think he'll be good. If he has to scramble and run around all day, that's not his game.
yeah, and I think short routes. This is where the NFL and the short routes and the slants would really maybe benefit him. Like if they had a little bit more of a pro offense at
Sure.
Washington, where he was able to do those quick releases, where okay, this is the hot route, and we're just going to go towards the inside, and we're going to see if we can get around these guys. Because the problem was again that the line was making so much headway so quickly that you were more afraid of them batting the ball down than anything else.
Yeah.
It was
No, I mean they really could have used a big tight end on like rub routes, right? Like do a little chip block, fade out to the flat, maybe drop into the middle, something like that. Just easy out passes, because when you were watching, that Michigan defense was respecting the deep ball. So they were playing deep. So the middle of the field had plenty of opportunities if they would have used more of it. Like you said before, slants would have worked. But yeah, if you had tight ends on an inside rub route on the way through, you get that little block in there, you fade out, it's a 4-yard pass, but it's consistent and it's safe. It's something that could have extended some drives along the way. So,
short
again,
posts,
just some,
like short posts. You know what I mean? Like you got to go run out a little bit and then start going towards a post. Like
Sure.
like a little bit longer slants. That's kind of to be able to, because you're right. They were respecting. There was a lot of space in the middle of the field that they just couldn't get to. You know what I mean? And because he had to run backwards, he was always throwing it off his back foot and just trying to lob it over the line, because the lines, these monsters were coming over and trying to get him. So
Absolutely.
it was a shame. It was a shame that he didn't have a little bit more time. Because if think about this, even like if a half a second more time on half of those plays would have been big. Like
Oh, for sure.
that first play.
Would have been a better ball. Would have been a better ball for sure.
Exactly. So that all being said, obviously Penix is going into the draft. What's the rest of Washington's team look like? Is a lot of are you losing them a lot? Is there a lot of seniors that played on this team? Is it similar to Michigan that they're just not going to have the type of team come back next year as they did this year? And
yeah, obviously Penix is gone, but yeah, they do lose some talent to the draft this year. So it will be a very different Washington team next year, but it should still be a decent team, but it won't be this team.
Gotcha. And then my other question is like, obviously you're from Seattle, so you were rooting on Washington. Are you a Washington State fan too? Is there like
there's definitely a state rivalry, right? There's a lot of talk back and forth. Now, when it comes to big games, obviously you kind of root for them, right? It's like your little brother, right? You're just like, we're going to fight, but we kind of want to see you do okay, right? So yeah, when you see the Cougars get into a bowl game or something, you're like, it'd be kind of cool if they won, but not really rooting for them either. Yeah, I mean, especially with the Huskies and the Cougars. There's a lot of talk back and forth.
Got you. So Penn, obviously in Pennsylvania, the University of Pennsylvania is an Ivy League school, and Penn State is Penn State. So
Yep.
there's not that rivalry. Like they're never going to play each other.
Sure.
If you're smart, you're going to Penn. Not that dumb people go to Penn State. It's just that's not what you're going for. So it's a little different in that type of regard. So when I think of Oregon and Oregon State, and the Wyoming has only got Wyoming because there isn't any. They may have Wyoming State, but I would never know about it because there's not.
Right.
Just like Idaho, and Boise State. You know what I mean? That's Idaho State is really Boise State. Again, it's not anything that you really think of. Same thing with like Montana. Montana is just lost the Division II championship. So I always ask that question because the last time I was up in Detroit, that it was Michigan State.
Yep.
And
that's a good rivalry.
Michigan State won that game.
Yep.
And there were a lot of unhappy Michigan fans.
Absolutely.
Around, you know what I mean? And I was definitely on the side of Michigan State because I just didn't, I didn't want Michigan to win. And so that was a couple of years ago, mind you. And of course, Michigan State was green. And then, of course, the Eagles beat the Detroit Lions that same weekend. So I was really happy about that all the way around. But I like to hear about those types of rivalries. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how big of a rivalry that is. I'm sure that it is, but is Washington always so much better than Washington State? Do they play for a, like when Michigan and Minnesota play, they play for the brown jug? And, there's something that's.
Yeah, here in Washington, it's called the Apple Cup. And it was the final game of the season every year. So that is one thing that's kind of a bummer moving forward, is they're not in the same conference anymore. And although it's going to be an out-of-conference game and the NCAA threw them a bone, they're going to do it for the next couple of years for sure. The Big Ten has 18 schools now, right? So if you're going to play you're not going to have a lot of out-of-conference opportunities because of just how big the conference is at this point, right? So although they have it scheduled so that UW and Wazoo play each other, the next few years, you can bet that there's going to be years beyond that they probably don't. And again, it's just because the Big Ten is such a big conference now. Out of conference games are going to be somewhat limited. But it's really a bummer because that is a rivalry that has happened. They played that game 114 times. So it's sad to see that tradition start to go away. And again, although we're going to see it, who knows for how long?
Well, and I look at this as like that may be one of the things that takes over the first game of the season. Ultimately, where you're finding like that's when you play, Sister Mary the Poor and Sister Mary the Blind and stuff like that, and try to help out those types of universities. You're not going to have that anymore. So where they used to play at the very end of the season, now they're going to play in the very beginning of the season, which may help them in both regards. I know that, for the next couple of years, as you said, that they're going to play at the end of the season. However, playing at the beginning of the season kind of gets you pumped up for that.
Sure. So we actually don't know the placement of the game. They just conceded that they will play. So we don't know if it'll be the last game or the first game or somewhere through the middle. But basically all it said is they are going to continue to play this game, but I don't know when it's going to happen. But it was always kind of fun because it kind of went back and forth. One year it'd be in Seattle area, and then the other time it would be over in Pullman. And so it being late in the year, like in Pullman, you could have snow, right? It could be a snow game, so it could be a fun. It was such a fun rivalry, and you got to talk a lot of smack with all your friends that were either Husky fans or Cougar fans, and unfortunately, I do see that kind of going away, provided Washington State and Oregon State really try and make this Pac-12 thing still work with two schools. I'm not really sure how that works, but
I figure it's going to be that. I think isn't like the Mountain West going to start to really join that that conference. That's really what it's going to become.
I mean, if they merge the two, sure, but I mean, the thing is it's still not going to be a Power 5 conference anymore, right? Because that means if you blend the Mountain West and what's left of the Pac-12, your best schools are Washington State, Oregon State, Boise State. That's it. That's your 3 football schools. The rest of it's rounded out by.
Isn't Utah part of that, or did Utah move?
No, Utah was Pac-12, and they are headed to the Big 12.
Got you.
So basically, of the Pac-12, 10 of the schools are leaving, and it's basically split between the Big 10 and the Big 12, right? So all the schools are gone. So they have 2 schools. So even if they were going to blend with the Mountain West, would you even call it the Pac-12, right? Or Pac-10 or whatever it would end up being at that point? Because the Mountain West is the one that's carrying all the weight, right? They have all the
That's
schools.
what I would say. I would say you'd almost keep it Mountain West.
Exactly. So, I mean, and in that scenario, if you are, Oregon State and Washington State, wouldn't you then kind of put your eye to joining the Big 10, round that conference out to a full 20 schools, keep all your rivalries? I mean, you're already only going to have 4 conferences anyway, really, right?
Right.
So do you want to be in the running for the conference championship of a conference that has 3 schools, right? 3 actual football schools? Or do you want to go somewhere where, if you win a conference championship, it matters, right? So, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think it'd be a better fit if they were to just round out the Big 10 to 20 schools and stop messing around with it. I mean, they destroyed the Pac-12. Let's just concede the fact that it's ruined and and move on.
Yeah, it's interesting. I got Chris is talking about how the food prices were so ridiculous at
the title game.
At the game, yeah, at the title game, and then he's well, and I thought the same thing as well. Interestingly enough, I being a veteran, I pay attention to vet ticks, and you could buy tickets to that game very, very, like you could get a good seat for that game really cheaply. So it didn't have the sellout like they think they were trying to do. And that's part of the problem. It's just the gouging that occurs is just over the top.
Well, so prime example of that, right? So here in Seattle, everything's expensive, right? And so I go to less games than I used to, because now your base ticket price most of the time is like $230, right? So if you go with a couple of friends and you park for $100+, and I mean, all of a sudden you're a G into your day for half a day, right? And so it's just like, okay, it's tough to justify that. I can throw a awesome watch party and save some money, right? But then when you're looking around the league, it was a few years ago, but you could have got a ticket for the Seahawks and Jaguars. I think it was the first year that Lawrence was there, so it was during their dumpster fire with Urban, right? Or Urban Meyer, and so you could get a ticket for $15, right? So then all of a sudden the flight there, watch the game, and a cheap hotel was cheaper than watching the game here in Seattle.
Yep.
Which is insane. Or if you wanted to see this
that's
year,
like that for every Philly game, every Philadelphia Eagles game, that they gouge the prices because first off, they know the Philadelphia travels. So Philadelphia games, I mean, going to New York, you could get a ticket for like $25. I think the cheapest was like $20 because nobody wanted to go to that game anyways. It was no unimportant game. It was bad weather, blah, blah, blah. You're going to get all that type of stuff. And, if you felt like, braving the cold and watching that game, then it was worth it to you. Short of that, it's, no need to go to that game or, $25. Maybe I'll do it because you're going to pay more for the parking. Actually, $30 they only charged for parking because they knew they weren't going to have a lot of people. So they wanted to make as much money as they could.
Nope, that makes sense.
So, literally it was cheaper to get a bus and go up to the game and watch it up there than it was for any game this year. I'm used to paying anywhere between $2 and $500 for a ticket, and that's just regular season. And
Yeah,
if
no,
I want to go sit in a great spot, it's even more.
for sure. Well, and it's funny, if you wanted to watch, it was a Panthers game. I want to say they were playing the Texans, but I don't quite remember. The cheapest ticket you could get was 45 cents.
Yes.
I was like, that is amazing. And I would have went to that game. If I was just there visiting, right? And I'm like, I'm not a fan of either team, right? But I just love football. And it's like, oh, you could go to the game for 45 cents. I'm like, man.
Well, that was before fees. It was still $10.75.
That'd do it. Never mind.
Because the fees kind of kill you there on that 45 cents. But yes, exactly. It was ridiculous, including the last game. I think the last game was very, very inexpensive to go to against Tampa. Because who wants to really go to that team and watch that team play? Nobody. Because it's bad football. It's bad football, and you don't want to spend any money and give it to that ownership.
I mean, it's fair. But again, I don't know. I love football, so if I can go for free, basically, I'm probably doing that.
Hold on, Chris. Is this for real? I'm
What's
posting
that?
this up right now. The Giants fired their coach.
Really?
Two coaches gone. Tennessee Titans coach and New York Giants coach part ways.
Wow.
Really? No,
I gotta look.
Yeah, that is news to me. So
Like I knew Wink was gone. Like Wink left last night. But is that right?
yeah, I'm looking to see right now. Martindale resigned as Giants defensive coordinator. They fire Rivera. Yeah, I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't see it yet.
I put that up. Nope. Yeah, I don't see anything that mentions that at all. So until I get it, that is unconfirmed.
Yeah, I don't see anything
that would be
yet. But yeah, I know Wink left, but I don't see anything that says Dable's gone yet.
Dable's gone, or I mean, in Tennessee, you're saying that the Titans.
I mean, that one wouldn't shock me though. Dable would shock me a little bit just because he was coach of the year last year. It's tough to get fired the year after you win coach of the year.
Vrabel was fired as of 5 minutes ago.
Okay, you knew Vrabel was probably gone.
And then I'm going to check Giants.
Yeah, you knew Vrabel was going to find his way out because the whole team is getting blown up. So if you were going to make a change, this is that time, right? Which, it's too bad. He had a good run there.
Yeah, it doesn't show that. I mean, Wink is gone, but it does not show that. Here, now I know he just sent me another post here, so I'm going to check that real fast. Yeah, the Titans, that's what I saw. The Titans coach was fired, but I don't see anything on the Giants. Just Wink Martindale. Oh, look at this. Surprise, surprise.
What's up, man?
Hey, we just wrapped up on the other one. And I said, they still got an hour in this show. I'll just go ahead and pop on by. Give guys a hard time.
There you go. So
Right
you know
on.
what? Just because you guys were doing a lot of talking yesterday, and we just now switched over, but we can go back here a little bit. What were your thoughts on the national championship, Jay?
My thoughts are exactly what I told Dustin, and I even told Bo the other night, I think, is that, Penix is a good quarterback, but one of the things I really just kind of understood, and it really was made prevalent with the Michigan game, is that Penix is a good quarterback when he's not under pressure. But when you put that man under pressure, he's a completely different quarterback. And a lot of it has to do with him not being able to extend plays, him not being able to escape plays, because them knees are just they're surgically repaired, and it just really makes him a one-dimensional quarterback. So if you want to take out Penix, just put pressure on. That was the biggest thing I took away from that game. Bo, I don't know if you saw that as well, and I told you, I said, man, if you put pressure on Penix, and if you don't give up the deep ball, and if you can get a run game going against Washington's defense, which clearly they did, they had like 200 rushing yards that first half. That was the key to the game right there.
Yeah, well, and the running game was the part that I was worried about to start, right? But I can't completely fault Penix because he had some very real drops by receivers, and ones that hit him square in the hands. So I would say under the amount of pressure that he had, he actually played really well. But I mean, he was just getting crushed all night. Like I said when we were talking, the offense and defensive lines of Michigan are just better than Washington's, and so they were going to need to do something to try and be better in those. And they were able to make adjustments throughout the game, but the very beginning and the very end, that's where it got out of hand.
I just feel like the good quarterbacks are the ones that when pressure does come, they can evade it, extend the play, bootleg it left or right, whatever they need to do to get away from the pressure and still make a play or give the receivers time to make the play. And I just don't think Penix has the ability to do that. And I just think once you get around him, it's just done. Like he just sits there.
Like when you were watching though, the defensive line of Michigan was actually playing incredibly smart because their ends were really driving up the field. So he didn't really have a way to escape out and around. Those lanes were closed because of the way that pass rush was coming through. Because usually, they only sacked him once, right? So they were creating the pressure, so they weren't necessarily getting home. But as they bracketed him in, he had really tight throwing lanes to get past, those huge guys throwing their arms up. So, what I was saying before you came on is quarterback hurries should really be a stat that's highlighted way more than it is.
Oh, absolutely, it should be. I mean, matter of fact, it was two of the hurries that they got put into where two of the interceptions came from. That last one where Sanders took it all the way down to, I think, like the 5-yard line, and then, of course, Corum eventually took it in for the score. I mean, that was one of them. And really, he should have had 3 interceptions, but one of them, the Michigan guy, dropped it. Had he not dropped it, he really should have had 3 interceptions. And they were all under duress where he couldn't escape. And he just launched it.
Yep.
Yeah, so
and those were primarily on 4th down. So it was just I'm either turning him over here or I'm chucking it. And I mean, so I can't really fault him for launching it because you're turning it over either way.
True, unless he gets it all the way down to the 5, which had you not chucked it and gave it up and punted it, maybe you don't give up that touchdown. Maybe you still have another fight left in the game.
Well, no,
you know what I'm saying?
That was a 4th down play, so they would have got it right there.
Oh, I thought that was 3rd. My bad. Well, either way, even if you don't chuck it, you're still much further away than on the 5-yard line.
Sure, but you're not.
I don't know. It isn't unfortunate for them, not for Michigan, obviously.
Well, of course.
Well, and ultimately, just a reiteration. Debo did not resign. It was Wink Martindale that resigned. It was clickbait on the one thing that says, the coach resigns, but it wasn't that coach. It was well, you had to know that wasn't right. I mean, that's a coach where you're just like, if he didn't win Coach of the Year last year, there's a chance. But I mean, I think there's only one NFL coach that ever had that happen, where he won Coach of the Year and then got fired the next year.
Well, I wonder where you got to imagine now that Jim Harbaugh, now that he's got his NCAA championship, he's got to be going to the NFL at this time around. I can't imagine him going back now.
You would think so, right?
I just wonder who he chooses. Now that Vrabel's out at Tennessee, will he take that job? I mean, there's a lot of different openings he can shoot for.
Yeah, but
I don't know that Tennessee's the one.
Oh, I don't think so either. I just thought it was interesting that they fired Vrabel. I mean, I kind of figured they would, but yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, firing Vrabel there makes sense just because you're blowing the whole team up anyway. If you wanted to make a change, this is that time. I don't think that's a great job opportunity for a guy like Harbaugh that wants to come and win. Like, that one's going to be some work to rebuild.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I can't imagine that I mean, maybe they do think Levis is their guy, or maybe they're waiting. I don't think Levis is the guy. I don't think Malik Willis is the guy. I still think they gotta. I still think they're on the elusive search for that next guy to replace Tannehill. If they do get rid of, I'm sure they'll get rid of Tannehill as part of the rebuild.
And I think Vrabel just drives down the street and goes to Atlanta.
What was
That's
that?
a good possibility.
Yeah, I think he winds up in Atlanta. You know, if thinking that Chicago is Harbaugh's spot, you know, and I'm just now I'm placing coaches where I think they would go.
Sure.
I think Harbaugh goes to Chicago or San Diego, you know what I mean, or you know, Los Angeles. I think Vrabel goes to Atlanta. Belichick's not leaving.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I don't think Belichick's leaving New England. I agree, but I think that he would absolutely do that. But I don't believe that that's going to be the case. Now, is it possible that Vrabel could take a defensive coordinator's job underneath Bill Belichick? Possibly, being the heir apparent. But then, you know, Belichick's kid is going to be the one that's going to be left out holding the bag there. So I don't know how that really would play.
I think Belichick just give that one extra year of whatever. We're going to bring in GM, but let's do that extra year. And if you do something great, but if you don't, I think Belichick will eventually be gone at some point. It won't be right now because I think he's got, one more year left on his contract, if I'm not mistaken?
He does have one more. He does have one more left. And, I mean, again, he only needs 12 games to, you know, tie the record, right? So
15 games.
Yeah.
Or, 15. Yeah, 15. That's right.
So he's got to go for a couple of years if he wants to get the record. But I wouldn't be surprised. Like, again, now see, knowing that is Vrabel, like, you're not going to win 15 games next season with New England the way that they are, are right now. So is Vrabel going to wait 3 years to become a head coach again? I doubt it. You know what I mean? So that makes that kind of go away a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, that's definitely going to go away. I think you were more spot on with the Atlanta job. I think again, all the pieces are there. He just has to get a quarterback. That's what he can bring. Hopefully, he'll talk to Arthur. They'll bring in the guy he wants, and then I think it's a whole new rebirth for that guy. Or you'll find out if he was really a good coach or not, because he can say, "Well, look, you brought in the quarterback, you got all these other weapons, you still couldn't do nothing. Maybe you're just not the guy. Maybe you're just a coordinator or something."
Right. So I think that there's a lot of different ways that this could wind up going. I'm not really sure yet, and I still don't think now it's Black Monday is now Black Tuesday. You know what I mean?
It's interesting. There wasn't as many firings as I thought there was going to be.
Yeah, I thought that there would be more. I mean, obviously, I think whoever. It's more and more likely, as I'm hearing, and I talked to a couple of people yesterday, that whoever loses the game on Monday night will not have a job. And and it's funny to say it like that because I thought Nick Sirianni at least deserved another year. You know, I mean, even if he was to lose to Tampa, he's come in here and in 3 years' time, he has been to the playoffs 3 years in a row. So how do you fight that? Like, you got, listen, obviously something's working. Is he losing the locker room? I was talking and it, it's maybe slightly fractured. I don't know exactly what that means, but if it's any bit of a fracture, somebody taught me, a very big, good businessman taught me at one point, you hire slow, you fire fast. When you know that it's the beginning of the end, cut your losses and move on.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the one thing that I will say about the Eagles ownership is that they've been pretty good at picking coaches. I mean, go Chip Kelly being outside of the mix. But even Chip Kelly had 2 10-6 seasons before, having the season where it was, we got to get rid of you now because you're just an asshole. You know what I mean? That's really what it came down to.
That's exactly what it was.
Well, listen, you know what? And if you can be an asshole if you're winning.
That's right.
Well, of course. You do whatever you want when you're winning.
Absolutely. Winning cures all.
Exactly.
It does.
But when you're losing, guess what? Nobody wants to hear it. So, and I think about that with hockey all the time because hockey coaches are traditionally, straight asses. You know what I mean? But that's the difference. Mike Keenan, everybody hated Mike Keenan. But you know what Mike Keenan did? He won. When he got you to the Stanley Cup, he did those types of things. Being a coach, you are not the player's friend. You are there to coach men. You know what I mean? And direct men onto doing what you want them to do. And if they buy into that system, like I said, when everybody's buying into the system, everybody pushing in the same direction, you can move the mountains. And that's kind of what happens. That's how Andy Reid is able to do whatever he was able to do. But also, that's what happens when you start to lose everybody. Like when they lost T.O., and T.O. caused the issues and the problems that happened there. And then he tried to set up the dream team, and the dream team didn't cut it. And then that following year was just like bad. You know what I mean? That's, again, you start to lose the locker room, just like as Joe's saying here that Chip did. Chip lost the locker room pretty quickly in that year because he was too much of an ass and too pompous to realize his own mistakes. So that's kind of part of what's going on. Let me ask you this, Jay. Green Bay beats Dallas. How secure is your coach's job?
Well, if it's any other ownership group, I would say not at all secure. For some reason, and I don't know how Jerry or how he explains it to himself, but this guy will ride with people for some reason. He rode with Romo for a while. He rode a little bit longer than I think what he should have. He's riding with Dak in some cases, a little longer than I felt like he should. I don't know. For some reason, Jerry has a sense of loyalty that just as long as you're doing what Jerry says and you're a yes guy, he'll roll with you. It's weird to me. I still haven't quite understood how Jerry comes up with this. It's the weirdest damn thing. But so no, do I think he's in? I still don't think he's in Jerry. I think Jerry's gonna, as long as he's making the playoffs, I think Jerry's gonna ride with them. He shouldn't, but I think he does.
Okay, that's a fair assessment. I thought that he should have gotten rid of a couple of coaches a little earlier than he should have.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Like I said, It took him losing the division before he let he fired that. Like losing the division to the Eagles was when the Clapper got fired. How
many seasons did he roll with Jason Garrett when Jason Garrett wasn't giving him anything?
Right.
At the bottom of the run. And he rode with that guy for a long time. Even Kellen Moore, a long time. Huh?
He was there a decade, right?
Yeah, he was there under Wade Phillips. Then Wade Phillips got let go, and then they brought in, and then he got elevated up to the head coaching job, and then he just stayed there under losing season after losing season after losing season. I was like, what does it take to get rid of this guy?
But it was only he only coached for 4 seasons, right?
I think it was longer.
I know he was there forever, but
I thought it was 5. It could have been 4. It seemed like 10.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, when you got that many back-to-back losing seasons, it just holy crap. And I kept telling myself, they're gonna fire him, they're gonna let him go. Surely Jerry's gonna move on. And he just wasn't moving on. And I'm just like, and then he brought in Mike McCarthy, and I'm like, okay, that's another antiquated guy that's not gonna be able to get the job done. I was really hoping they'd bring in Brian Flores. Bring somebody in who's young, who has, a little bit more creative mind, who can create things. Players coach type of guy. Look what he did down there in Miami. He really built up that squad before they let him go. And of course, it didn't happen. And I was like, damn.
Yeah.
Well, with Brian Flores, obviously, it'll be interesting if if he gets offered another head coaching job. I think he's going to be a coordinator for the rest of his life now because of what happened in Miami, and
And then we feel it stinks.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree.
so. So it's going to be interesting to see how many more cuts there are. I'm surprised to hear that there was not more. Like you would have thought maybe. I mean, obviously Denver's where they're at right now, and I'm thinking of teams that didn't make the playoffs that should have maybe like that had different, you know. I guess Cincinnati, you're going to let you stick with that coach because he has brought you to the playoffs, and you're going to say that, hey, it was Joe Burrow's fault that occurred, and you're going to at least give him one more year to go and such. So maybe there is still more shoes to drop, but
well, I mean,
as of right now.
I would imagine there's going to be, right? I mean, just because of some of the teams that played so poorly, I don't think that Eberflus did enough at the end of the season to save his job, right? Like that team is a dumpster fire. So I would think that he's still probably gone. I mean, I could see the Saints coach again being out of there. I don't know. I feel like we're only about halfway there.
By the way, Jason Garrett was 9.5 seasons. He took over halfway through 2010.
As the head coach
from Wade, yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he was there. Like I said, he was there a long damn time.
Well, yeah. I know he was the offensive coordinator for a little while there too, and I knew he was the heir apparent, but
no, he took over halfway through 2010. That's when Wade got excused, and then Garrett came in. We've been riding with that guy a long time.
Well, listen, we've reached the top of the hour. We're going to do our station identification and a quick commercial, and we'll be back for the second hour of Coast to Coast with all three of us here. And look at this, all of us being civil to start. So we got something going on.
That's because he wasn't here to start.
Exactly. Exactly. But we'll be back in just a few moments. I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboys fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, from Brooklyn. Hey, get it each.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
And we are back with the second hour of Coast to Coast with Pags, Bo, and McLovin all in house. Real quick, before we get back to football, which I know is going to, we're going to probably start breaking down some of the playoff games. I wanted to drop a message to you guys about. There was a big trade in hockey yesterday, and it was interesting because the player that was traded, the Flyers made a trade of Cutter. I crushed his last name, Gauthier, Guitar, whatever his name is. Gauthier. Okay. Cutter Gauthier got traded to Anaheim for Jamie Drysdale. And the reason why it's such a big deal is because Cutter obviously he was the MVP of the U.S. Juniors and wound up winning the Junior World Cup just this past weekend. And there was a lot that occurred during this trade. I actually knew about it a couple of days prior that it was potentially going to happen. They were going through all of the medical because Jamie Drysdale was hurt for a little while. Great defenseman, was the number 6 pick in the 2020 draft, and Cutter was the 5th pick in the 2022 draft. But they made this trade now because Cutter did not want to come to Philadelphia. He said, he originally said, yes, I was built to be a flyer and blah, blah, blah. And the next thing you know, he's like, nope, I'm not coming. And his parents are like, nope, he's not coming. And wah, 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 wah. I'm going to choose where I want to go, and I'm not going to play for Philadelphia.
What if his parents got in his ear? And we really don't go that far.
Well, I can imagine. From what I understand, when you're a brat, your parents are brats.
Yeah, that's about right.
I'm being nice. I'm being nice about that. You know what I mean? There's ways I could say that differently. So, yes, the hockey version of J.D. Drew actually occurred. And, the one thing I will say about Philadelphia, if you're a player in Philadelphia, we love our players here. We actually live our sports. And if you win a championship, you get a statue built. And I'll be honest, that is a lot of pressure to play under in a city. You can't hide in Philadelphia. In New York, the football teams, you get a lot of pressure because the media is always on you. The Rangers, kind of same situation. But short of that, the Yankees get all that pressure, but the Mets can hide a little bit because the Mets are going to always Mets it up. You could be a player that gets lost in the mix.
Not in Philly.
Not in Philly. You cannot do that. And maybe that was part of it. Maybe he was too much of a pansy to want to come to Philadelphia. And you know what? If you don't want to be here, I don't want you here. So go have fun in Anaheim. Go to hockey hell over there with the Mighty Ducks and enjoy your life. And I can't wait for you to come to Philly and somebody bang you up against the boards. As somebody said, I think it was, I'm not sure who said it. I want to think it was Chief, but I don't think it was Chief. He said if he went into the corner with a dozen eggs in his pants, he left the corner with a dozen eggs in his pants. He would never hit anybody. He was a little soft. So I don't like soft guys. We play a rough and tumble system here in Philadelphia. You need to be able to hit. And if you don't hit, you're going to hear it from us. And that's part of the thing. And I feel like he was too soft to want to come here. And now he gets to go to the soft area of Anaheim and play hockey out there. And good as far as I'm concerned.
For Joe's point here in the comments, when he comes to Philly, though, he's going to have a fun trip.
Yeah.
I wonder, though, like Pac said earlier about, pressures of playing in certain areas. I wonder if he felt like, being in Philadelphia for a little bit, maybe seeing how the fans were and how the intense environment. Do you think maybe he just got cold feet and said, hey, I don't think I want to play here. This is just too crazy for me. I'd rather go over here where it's not quite as intense and ease into my game. I mean, maybe he just felt like he couldn't handle the pressure of it.
I don't know. It really spoke volumes when he didn't show up to rookie camp.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Big deal. And I'm like, all right, you're not going to show up to rookie camp. You're not going to come here. You're that soft already. Like maybe he didn't want to. That's why he stayed another year in college instead of going to the pros because they were ready to bring him up here now. They were ready to show what he could do at this moment. So ultimately, I feel like, and to say all the right things in the beginning and then to retract it all to say that you're not going to be this guy that you don't want to play here. Somebody got into his ear. Somebody said something to him, and and it's hard. Hey, listen, Eric Lindros came in here and he was the savior of the franchise, and that's a big crown to carry. You know what I mean? To
Right.
have to wear. You know what I mean? That's always really tough. Like being in Dallas, the Dallas Stars probably rank third in the list of teams to talk about down there. You know what I mean? So you're not really, and you've had some good players down there. It's Jamie Benn. You've had Madonna down there. It's like so. I know hockey pretty well. But again, you're not making the front page. Flyers fans are some of the most loyal and some of the most vocal
Right.
in the NHL, and it might be tough to come here. You know what I mean? And if you start listening to what the media says, I wouldn't be surprised that his first game here as an Anaheim Duck, he's a healthy scratch.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised either. I think maybe he's like, "Yo, coach, I know we're going to Philly. Might need to stay on the bench for a little bit."
Right.
Yeah.
Don't whatever you do, don't put me in, coach. Don't put me in. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go show in street clothes.
Yeah. I mean, because I literally I don't. We're not that bad, but ultimately,
No, win or lose, you burn the
afraid.
city down. It's fine.
I don't know what you're talking about, burning the city down. We climb poles. We don't burn anything. That's why they grease the poles up here. And you know what? We still get up those poles. So you can grease them all you want. It doesn't matter. We're still getting up there.
I can just see Pags sliding down a greased pole. I can just see that already.
You don't ever have to worry about it. I ain't climbing no poles. So I ain't getting up on top. I could be right at the bottom. I could be the guy pushing somebody else up that pole. But I wanted to mention that because we don't talk enough about hockey, obviously, and because we're in prime football season, so that's why football really is the biggest push here right now. But I wanted to mention that it was a big trade that got announced right before the Flyers Penguins game, and like I said, I had known about it. There was a little bit of apprehension, because obviously you're trading away the kid who just got the MVP in the juniors. But I look at a couple of different things saying, hey, one, he didn't want to come here. And two, there was a reason why he wasn't captain of that team. Yeah, so maybe he's got some personality flaws that created the monster that he is now. So,
yeah.
But talking a little bit of basketball, very, very quickly in the basketball. If you chose my team, my pick hit last night, big. I told you it didn't matter who the Clippers were playing. Actually, they were playing the Suns, which is a pretty good team, and they smoked them. They absolutely smoked them. So I am right now 19-9 with my picks when it comes to basketball. No picks today, though. Nothing fits into my system. So.
Dang, I got a light bill I need to play. Come on, Pags. Give us a couple of nuggets over here.
Well, wait till. Don't worry. I think tomorrow there's 2 picks. So
all right, I'll tell my creditors that they can wait till tomorrow.
Wait till.
Hey, I'd love to pay you today, but Pags ain't making no picks till tomorrow, so you're gonna have to hold one more day.
That's the lights. Just hopefully they'll stay on for a minute. So let's talk about some of the upcoming games that are about to happen with the NFL. Let's start with the Saturday games, and let's start to break them down a little bit. The Cleveland Browns and the Houston Texans. Like I said, the point spread's 2.5. Cleveland's favorite, and it's a 44.5. You know,
you're cutting out,
over
man.
under. Can you hear me now?
I didn't catch any of those numbers.
2.5 point spread for Cleveland, and a 44.5 over under. So,
man, I feel like
in
this
Houston,
is where. Yeah, exactly. I think Houston can snag this game. Just because it's Flacco, and he's played well, which means he might not.
But Flacco is riding that experience. The only thing I told you earlier, I don't like is the fact that he didn't play that last game. Like they sat him against the Bengals. I don't like that when it gets sat like that, even though I know that they have to do that because they're looking out for their players' interest. But I still think it keeps up that momentum going. And the fact that C.J. Stroud didn't sit and he's still riding that momentum with Nico Collins and company out that last game, I'm with you, man. I really think that the momentum, it's in Houston. The momentum is on their side. Stroud is playing well. The defense is playing pretty good. Yeah, I'm with you. I really think the Texans could take that one. And that's a tall order considering that Amari Cooper and company are coming in town. Myles Garrett, they're going to have to contain Myles Garrett, not let him get the pressure onto Stroud, which is a tall task.
No, I mean, this will be a battle the whole day. And it seems like one of those that will be like a 1-point game, right? Like I mean, the spread was for the Browns anyway, right? So an outright win would be a cover. But even if they lost, I think it would be a cover, even at 2.5 points. That just both these teams, you know, the offense of the Browns doesn't move the ball particularly well, and they have an elite defense. On the other side, the Texans' offense is better, and their defense isn't quite as good. So, I mean, it's strength against strength on both sides. So, it'll be a fun game, but I do think that the Texans can squeak this one out.
Yeah, the only thing I'm not in favor of with the Texans is Singletary. Their run game, for me, is still a little suspect, right? I think that's kind of – and I really like that guy Ford over in Cleveland, and I think you got Kareem Hunt behind him. So I think that if Cleveland gets that run game going, I mean, that could be – and if Houston doesn't get theirs going, that could be an issue right there. But, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, if Ford really gets rolling, then, yeah, the Browns win that game. Because that defense is good enough that it's not like the Texans are going to score every time they touch the ball. So if they can manipulate the clock with a good running game, don't ask Flacco to do too much, then yeah, the Browns win that game. If Stroud gets to actually move the ball around and Flacco has to play catch up, that's a different game altogether.
Here are some things that stand out to me. The Browns are 3-5 on the road. They were 8-1 at home. So that's a big deal.
Yep.
And the home record is they're 6-3 for the Texans are at home. And the other big deal is the third down efficiency. Actually, the defense of the Browns is the number one in the league. They hold it to 30% efficiency. However, their offense is like one of the worst in the league at 29th. At 31.6% efficiency. And I think that that's where the game is going to be won. Whoever has the most completed third downs, like that's going to be the one stat. I'm normally a time of possession guy. And I think that that's going to probably play into this mix here a little bit. But obviously,
those typically go hand in hand, though.
I'm about to say, if you're converting your thirds, you would be getting time of possession.
Yeah, usually time of possession has a high third down percentage.
So, and I figured like that they have to get somewhere around 35%. That's what the Texans need. Texans need 35%.
I think they got to do better than that. I think they got to be close to 40% if they're gonna beat up on this team.
Well, I think that the Browns aren't going to be able to get off the Browns aren't going to be able to stay on the field at the offense with third down. So I feel like that you're going to see them at 25%. That you'll see maybe 2 for 10 or 3 for 12. That's where their third down efficiency is going to be, and that you're going to see Houston somewhere around 5 for 13 or 5 for 14. Somewhere in that mix. I think that Houston will have the ball a little bit more. It'll be probably like 35 to 25 in terms of that area. And that's going to be dealing with the rushing. The rushing, obviously, Singletary is not bad. They're going to be able to move the ball a little bit. Unless there are defensive touchdowns on the Browns side. That's the one thing that I think that will keep the Texans from winning this game. But I think I like the Texans here.
Yeah.
So for the people that are convinced that the NFL is scripted, do you think the Browns win and then Flacco ends up going into Baltimore in the championship game? Because I've already seen that conspiracy theory out there.
Well, that would be the divisional game, and again, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, Houston's a big market, but it's not really super crazy. You know what I mean? I don't think that the NFL is like, oh, we absolutely need to have Houston in the mix. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Cleveland win this game. Like, I don't think it would be ridiculous. I think it would be on their defense, solely on their defense, that would happen. But other than that, it's ultimately, I think the offense is not going to be strong enough at all.
Yeah, it always wonders to me, like, as I understand where you're coming from with Houston in terms of that, Pags, it just always blows my mind, though. When you look at the population of Houston, number one, we're about as diverse as New York is, and we got probably double the population that New York City has. I mean, we got a lot of I think we're like the, third or fourth largest city in the U.S., but yeah, for some reason, that's a huge capital. That's a huge market that, would bring money into these guys. So it always blows my mind that no matter how big the market is, we still are not looked upon as, like you said, a city where people care about, hey, we should be in there.
Right. I think that has more to do with the passion of the fans. Not that you don't have passionate fan base. Like I know a number of Houston Texans super fans.
Right.
That they're great guys. They are very passionate about their team. And like I said, I love going down there. I love spending time with them. Shout out to Toucan Dan, who also is an Astros super fan as well. So he was the one that able to get me into the World Series and get me on, in the special spot. So like the Houston people are always a lot of fun for me to hang with and such like that. So I don't have that problem. But as a whole, I feel that the fan base isn't as passionate.
See what happens when you say something about Houston, you freeze up. Maybe somebody should have said something about Houston. Pags, you can go ahead and mentally take that back, and you'll come back into the show, I'm sure.
No doubt.
It's like, what do I do with my hands?
Exactly.
I don't know. Where do we go from here? Do you want to talk about another game while we're waiting for Pags to eventually reset his computer?
It's funny.
Who's up next?
This is where I thought I was going to end up, because we have this wicked windstorm happening right now, and the lights keep flickering. So I thought for sure I was going to drop out of the show at some point. But so far, so good. I mean,
I'm down here in sunny Houston, man, it's white. Now, yesterday it was raining cats and dogs, but today it's white as rain, which,
nice.
I fully expect the roof to be open at Houston when they play the games. I don't even see any bad temperatures coming through that way. So I think it's going to be a great day for some playoff football. And then you turn your attention over. Let's just go to I'm pretty sure he was going to go to Dolphins anyway next.
I was going to say we should go to the Dolphins KC. That should be a fun game.
I'm loving this. Yeah, especially after that Buffalo Bills game and the way that one ended. What do you think? I mean, Kansas City's not really been looking, quote unquote, like Kansas City as a pass. I call it the Taylor Swift effect. What do you think? I mean, no, seriously. I said every damn celebrity that ever gets or sports figure that gets involved with a celebrity, their team just goes to crap.
No, I'm with you. No, I don't love how KC's been playing. Now, obviously, the Dolphins didn't exactly play lights out either, but they should get some of their guys back. They're not going to be 100% healthy, but they shouldn't have quite the group that they did against the Bills. So. And when you look at KC, their offense has not been clicking, and they have tons of drops. We got the Minecraft version going to my right here. Just a blocky Pags over there, but yeah, no, I do like the Dolphins in this game though, just because of how poorly the offense has played for KC. And that the defense has been the only thing that's been good about KC and even it hasn't played as well down the stretch.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're the Dolphins and like you said, you're missing Chubb and you're missing Howard, and there's one other guy, I forget they're missing. There's a third guy on there that's pretty. How are you going to plan for a team like KC defensively, knowing that pretty much, you're the number one guy there, the number one threat, obviously, or two threats would be Pacheco in the run and Kelsey in the receiving game. Are you going to double up on Kelsey and then let the other guys do zone coverage or whatever it is on the other receivers? If you're Miami, how are you going to approach them defensively?
Yeah, I don't think you have to on Kelsey, because if you've watched him all year, like, he hasn't been quite right. He's been slower than he's been in the past. I mean, he's looked banged up, and he has had some uncharacteristic drops through the season. So I don't know that you necessarily have to double him the way that you might have had to in years past. So if you can get some pressure on Kelsey off the line, I think because he's just hasn't been as fast as he's been, I think you can disrupt his routes.
Yeah, I always felt like, when you say he's a step slower, I felt like that as well. And I feel like it's the after parties. Taylor Swift got him too many after parties. You got to pick and choose your battles.
I mean, I know he had like an ankle injury earlier in the year, and if you're out all night, hey,
I'm just saying, Taylor's got a wild life, man, and you're trying to drag his butt out there too when he's over there trying to play football. You can't tell me that she don't have him at some after party. I'm gonna leave it at that. But
I mean, his bye week, he was down in another country or something, right? So I mean, obviously that can play a factor. But
you can't tell me that that's not at some. And I'm being silly with it, but you can't tell me at some level that she's not a distraction to him.
Oh, of course.
You know what I mean, and what he's trying to do, and his mental preparations.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that that's really any different than the guys that have kids and stuff. Everybody has distractions. This one is just
kids. He's got Taylor Swift. That's a completely different situation.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's got a public distraction for sure.
I'm just saying, usually you got the wife will take care of the kids, or God knows they're rich enough and they got a nanny that's taking care of them kids. I mean, you can't tell me half them. I'm just saying, if I had their kind of money, I got somebody that's nannying my kids so I can focus on my job. I'm just
sure.
Sure.
I guess the bigger question on that game.
Rats.
The bigger question on that game is, do you feel like Peacock chose that game specifically to try to get all the Swifties?
That's a good point.
Peacock.
I mean, no, seriously. Hey, that would certainly and also it doesn't hurt that the fact that Kansas City was last year's Super Bowl champion. I mean, there's a lot of probably different things that play into that. Why they would want that. But certainly the Swifties and what she commands, yeah, I can see that. That's big time money.
Well, and that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, I think that was the reason why they chose this. Some of the players got really angry about it. Like, are you kidding me? This is what you're doing to our game here. You're putting it on a streaming service that nobody has right now, and in hopes that somebody's going to sign up for this. Like I said, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to dofu it.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. When in doubt, dofu it.
Kudos to them for calling it something fun. So, when you have your sideline reporters and back to you right here live on the cock. Like,
oh, Lord. Wow. Ooh, that took a quick turn.
It's going to be good.
Right, quick turn. Hope the FCC's not going to give us a hard time on that one.
Well, no, because it's Peacock.
Exactly.
Well said, sir. Well said.
We're talking about birds. What are you thinking about?
Hey,
I feel like Howard Stern, cock a doodle doo.
Hey, that's what I can never play for South Carolina. If my motto is a Gamecock, I don't know if I want that. I mean, I just don't know. I don't know. It's a little weird.
It is a little weird, but anyways, I guess you guys went through the details of this. That obviously the over under with this, or the spread is 4.5 for the Chiefs, and over under is 43.5.
Well, we said that for you, Pags.
Yeah. So I mean, I could see that. It's supposed to be cold in KC, so they're thinking the Dolphins can't play in cold weather.
Well, I mean, that is a possibility, but Yeah, I never understood that because you can't tell me every single person that plays on the Miami Dolphins team is from the city of Miami. You got to know that they come from all next to the woods. Exactly. You can't tell they ain't played in cold weather before. I mean, unless we're talking about frozen tundra or something.
Not that I think it's that big of a deal. I don't know what the weather's going to be like in Kansas City. Here, I'll actually check it out. I'm going to go to the weather app and see what that looks like. But I mean, last year Miami almost beat Buffalo in Buffalo.
Exactly.
And it was freezing cold. So let's see what Kansas City says. And of course, that's Kansas City, Missouri, not Kansas City, Kansas.
Sure.
Right now it is snowing, and daily it will be. Once I get through all my ads. I love these. I love these apps anymore that always everybody's got a commercial. So,
yep. But yeah, it was supposed to be cold. I mean, unless that's changed.
Well, it's snowing now, so I got to imagine that it's going to still remain. There we go. Let's see if it actually picks up. My Wi-Fi is a little. So we're in the middle of a big storm here too.
Yeah.
So it's I'm getting a little bit of sketchy Wi-Fi at the moment.
Everything about Philadelphia is sketchy.
Kind of like your beard.
I don't like your mohawk.
That's fine. Nobody asked you. All right. Well, anyways,
you got a point, man. You got a point.
So,
Miami's weather right now, actually, we don't know. We're looking at Kansas City's weather, aren't we? Damn.
Right.
Yeah.
Good try.
I know. I suck. What can I do?
There we go. So, wow. Saturday night, -5.
Woo! Is it snowing, or I guess it's not calling for snow, or what?
Mostly cloudy and very cold, with the temperature approaching the record low of -10 set in 1979.
Wow.
22-mile-per-hour gusts. The real feel is going to be -12.
Well,
so I guess
they won't be throwing the tundra, but it's going to be damn cold.
Yeah. So based on that, which running game do you like? Because that's going to be the factor.
Yeah, see, and that
brings a damn good runner. Mostert's coming off of an injury if he's even plays. Could be Acne or whatever his name is.
McCain.
Yeah,
I mean, even if saying his name sounds like a summertime weather. So I mean, I'm probably gonna go with Pacheco. I think has a slight edge on that because he's actually practicing in that weather, right? I'm assuming they don't practice indoors.
They do. They do practice indoors. There's no sense in going outside and getting themselves sick before the game.
Well, I was thinking more for acclimation than anything else. I'd have them practicing outdoors.
I mean, they live there. It's not.
Well, you know what I'm saying, though? But I would have them practicing outdoors so you can take the hits in cold weather. Because, getting hit in cold weather feels different. It just kind of hits you a little different.
Well, it's funny. If it's that cold, you don't hardly feel any of it.
Well, that's true. No, that's not true. I lived in Wisconsin one time, and I dropped my keys in the snow, and I thought, no big deal. I just reached down and grabbed it. Do you know how bad that hurt? I felt my hand turned purple, and it felt like it was on fire. So I think that's crazy talk to say you don't feel it, because I felt every inch of it, and I'm pretty dang sure it was almost in the negatives.
You feel the weather, you just don't feel the impact because I
know it was in the negatives because I saw cats that were frozen.
Everybody's going to be using a lot of icy hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. The little oven mitt warmer things. Oh, you better believe it.
Well, they'll have the heated benches and the huge parkas.
In the cold weather, you put Vaseline on because the Vaseline actually layers you. Like if you have your skin, it layers you and it's not as cold. When you use the icy hot, it actually starts to warm you up. So that's the reason why you're going to see a lot of icy hot being used, and that actually will warm you up and keep you warm. And that's how you see those offensive linemen in that colder weather with no sleeves.
Oh, wait, Pat, I want to understand this real quick. I want to understand what you're saying. So you're telling me in Philadelphia, where it gets cold there, I know it gets cold in Philadelphia for sure. Are there times when you might go on a date with a female companion and you'll have Vaseline on your underarms? I mean, what do you say? Hey, touch here. How does that work, Pags? I'm just
First
curious.
off, I'll be wearing clothes when I'm on a date, so I don't have to worry about that. I'm not playing football. And, ultimately, it would only be on the exposed skin that you're doing that. Not the Vaseline that you use to brush your teeth over there. That's why you sound like so smart sometimes.
Oh, man.
I'm just saying, hey, pardon my hands. I know they're a little greasy. That's just the Vaseline talking.
Exactly. Well, listen, you don't want to use icy hot. That on you.
Hey, is our love burning or is that just my icy hot?
Only here, only on Coast to Coast are you going to get this type of knowledge here.
All of a sudden, this is the late show.
Hey, all I know is I'm telling Melanie come tomorrow to go get me some Vaseline.
But that's a real thing though. So by using Vaseline, it actually it puts a protective layer on your skin, so you're not feeling the wind and it doesn't feel as cold. So it's almost like wearing Under Armour and stuff like that. And players will use icy hot because it actually starts to heat up and ultimately keeps you warm during those times because it is cold. And it does negative degrees, anything. It's cold.
It's funny.
I know it's cold. I have one of them big things that covers your whole face, and all you see is the eyes and the nose. I have one of them things on for sure.
No, I mean, if it's going to be that cold, I kind of lean the other way though, right? I kind of lean back to KC if it's going to be that cold.
And some of those football players, I don't know if they're just trying to psych out the other guy or not, but they'll go out there. I see them out there in the offensive lineman, defensive lineman, and they're nothing. It's just short sleeves.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about. When they do that, you look at them, they look like they're glistening a little bit because they do have the icy hot on. Yes, it is. It is a mindset. It is a mindset. But that's kind of how that works. It really is. They're not as strong as you would think that they are. It's because they get cold just the same way as everybody else does. It may take a little bit longer to get to them because they have a little bit more. They have a little bit more blubber. You know what I mean? To get them through those cold temperatures, but it still gets cold. You know what I mean? So.
Listen, I don't care how fat you are, man. That stuff, you still got nerve endings on the edge of that skin. Right. It tells you it's damn cold.
Yeah. Negative temperatures is rough.
Well, and then the other game we'll do the first game, the 1:00 game on Sunday. The Steelers traveling to Buffalo, and we have Buffalo as a 10-point favorite in this game, and the over/under at 36.5. And the temperature in that for that game is going to be, because Buffalo is also a spot where it's cold. Let's see, Buffalo, New York is going to be. Yeah, but it's not like
Pittsburgh isn't cold too.
Right. It's actually only going to be.
Yeah, but listen, Buffalo, degrees. New York does get a hell of a lot colder. I mean, that.
Sure. No, I concede that for sure. Yeah.
I mean, let's put it this way.
27 degrees with a real feel of 5.
People down to New York for cold weather training. That tells you how cold New York gets.
Yeah. No, I got the Bills in that game anyway. To Chris's point, TJ Watt's out. He's the center pin to that defense. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I have Buffalo winning this game.
Yeah, they got Minkah Fitzpatrick listed as questionable. Yeah, you're right. TJ Watt's out. I got to tell you, man, I really like the Pittsburgh. I like the way they're heating up. I like the Mason Rudolph, like I said, Mason Rudolph and George Pickens. Well, they were in school together, so they got that connection.
It's that part that's weird.
Yeah,
you're liking Mason Rudolph. Not that
I think he's a great quarterback, but I like the connection that he has with Pickens. I mean, since he's taken over, him and Pickens have really. I mean, let's be honest. If it was Kenny Pickett out there, we're not even talking about them in the playoffs. Okay, so I'm not saying Mason Rudolph is this great quarterback, but he's certainly got Pittsburgh in a position where we're even talking about him at this late stage in the game or middle stage of the game. So I don't, but like you said, because of TJ Watt being out in that defense, not being at full mass, I'm going to ride with Buffalo as well on this. So
Yeah, the biggest thing with TJ Watt being out is one of Buffalo's strongest suits, strongest things going back to the third down conversions. They're number one in the league with 49.8% third down conversion. When you're at 50% third down conversion, you're going to win a lot of games. Interestingly enough, the fact that they are only 11-6 is more a testament to the other teams being able to get them off of the field when they were having problems. With TJ Watt there, that would not being out there, it's going to be a really, really tough time for them. I don't see how Pittsburgh is going to muster enough offense. They're going to have to run the ball tremendously. They're going to have to do literally 6 and 7 minute drives, and I don't know that their running game is going to be that strong.
Probably not. And besides, when you think back to a bunch of the Bills' losses, it's because they significantly lost the turnover battle, right? Because it's not like they weren't necessarily playing well in parts of those games. It's just you had games where Josh Allen threw, 3-4 picks. You're just like, okay, I mean, you should lose that game. I don't care how good you are. You could lose to the Panthers if you turn the ball over 4 times. So that's really why their record is the way it is. I wouldn't say it was necessarily the defense getting him off the field. It was Josh Allen throwing to the wrong colors, wrong colored jerseys.
Well, and he has 18 interceptions this year, so that's a big number right there. And Mason Rudolph has not thrown an interception this year.
That's actually surprising. Although he's only
thrown 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So and only 74 attempts. So let's not crown him as the next Brady, but let's. But I mean, ultimately, again, this is going to be one of those things where Pittsburgh, even in the cleanest of games that they could play, that they're going to have a really difficult time, I think, trying to beat this. But just like any given Sunday, you can find out exactly. It wouldn't be the first time that the Bills have lost to an AFC Central opponent or AFC North opponent in Buffalo in the playoffs.
And I'll tell you right now, because of the cold weather and the temps and adverse conditions, I wouldn't be surprised if a large part of this game on both sides is a run game. And if it comes down to a run game, I'd much rather have Najee Harris and Warren over James Cook, honestly. I'm not saying bad about Cook, but I like the running and combat combination of Warren and Najee Harris much better. So if it came down to a run game, then I think the advantage, from my opinion, goes to Pittsburgh at that point.
Interestingly enough, Cook has more yards this year than Najee Harris. Not by a lot, but Harris has got him in the touchdown
because that's splitting carries, but he's also splitting carries with T.J. Warren, which is why his numbers are where they are. James Cook is up there solo dolo doing it for the most part.
Got you. So, I mean, I think, like I said, I think that there's no way that Buffalo loses this game. It's just Pittsburgh got in. I guess the bigger question is, at the end of that game, does Tomlin get traded?
No. I think he's still going to remain in in Pittsburgh. I apologize.
There's an awful lot of talk about that. It's way too much.
I don't know. I guess it depends on if they get blown out of that game. Like if it's one of those Bills games where they hang 40 on you and that offense can't move.
Pittsburgh has the propensity to hang on to coaches for long. I mean, look, Howard probably would have still been the coach there had he not resigned. I mean, they were extremely loyal, and this guy's never had a losing season. And if you haven't had a losing season, why would they? That's not how they do their business, over there in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, so I agree with you. I don't know why you'd get rid of him, because are you going to get something better? Probably not, right?
Right.
But the argument's being made because they haven't made any deep playoff run in quite a while at this point. So just being above 500 isn't exactly what this league is looking for, right? So that's where this argument is really gaining traction, is because it's like, yeah, he hasn't had a losing season, but they're kind of winning enough games where they're not great draft picks either. So you're sort of in that middling area, the Jason Garrett era of the Cowboys, right?
This guy made the playoffs.
To get better, but you're not good enough to do anything either. Right.
This guy made the playoffs, though, with the likes of Trubisky, Pickett, and Rudolph. Let that sink in for a minute. I mean, we're talking about, gap field backup quarterbacks, and he's making the playoffs.
But that's the problem, is you are that level of team, so you're not getting anybody to get rid of that quarterback problem, right? So as soon as you listed those quarterbacks, how far in the playoffs you think you're going? Nowhere. You're going nowhere in the playoffs.
I don't know, though. They probably said the same thing about Trent Dilfer, because Trent Dilfer wasn't the greatest quarterback in the world either when he played for, other than, let's be honest. Baltimore won that Super Bowl on their defense alone. If it wasn't for that defense, they weren't winning that Super Bowl.
That's the difference. Is you're talking about an all-time defense, right?
No, that's what I'm saying. No, I get that. That's what I'm saying. All he had to do was game manage that and not do anything crazy, just game man. And he did well at game managing it.
So you can do that if you have an all-time.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? The Seahawks did the same thing. It's not like Russell Wilson did anything in the Super Bowl, right?
I'm right there with you. That leads to the Doom defense was, and the fact that you had Marshawn Lynch as your running back. Come on.
Now, obviously,
you had a stud running back. So
I'm not discounting the things that Wilson did to help us get to that point. But when you look at the Super Bowl itself, anybody could have been quarterback in that scenario because the defense absolutely destroyed that game. So, if in theory you had Mason Rudolph and you had a historic defense, sure, maybe, but that's not what they have. They have a above average defense. They have a few elite players that are not going to be playing. You're just not going anywhere with this team. You may surprise the Bills, but you're not going to surprise 4 teams.
Well, I understand where you're coming from. Yeah. How long did they?
Here's what's happening.
The guy down in Arizona, how long did he keep his job? The guy out of Texas Tech, what was that guy's? Which one was it? The coach? I'm talking about the coach for Arizona. Anyway, he kept his job longer. I think he should have kept it too. And I'm surprised he didn't get cut sooner.
Are you talking about Kingsbury?
Yes, there you go. Thank you, Cliff Kingsbury. Thank you. I feel like, if a guy like that can hold on to that job for as long as he did, I cannot imagine why they would let go of Tomlin. But
no, I agree. I agree. You only get rid of a coach if you think you can upgrade the position. I've never understood teams that are like, get out of here, and it's like, who's available? Nobody. It's like, good.
So this isn't on the Steelers. It's not on the Steelers. This is on Tomlin. Tomlin's the one considering walking away.
He's thinking about moving
on.
Okay.
Yeah, he's 173, 102. 102. So he's 173, 102, 2 ties.
Yeah.
And the fact that he hasn't won a playoff game since 2016.
Yeah.
Is some of the reasons on why he is considering that. Yeah, but he is the second longest tenured head coach and has 17 years of above 500 football.
Yep.
I can imagine the only reason if that is true that Tomlinson's the one doing it. What would be his reason for wanting out of Pittsburgh other than ownership or something?
Well, if he's the one considering it, you almost think that he takes some time off.
A broadcasting job. That's what he's slated for.
Yeah. Yeah.
That broadcasting is talking to him about that he would probably spend a year or 2 broadcasting. Guy's only 51 years old, only a couple of months older than me. So he's 51 years old. So even if he took 1 year, because I think really what it is, it becomes more a matter of, hey, maybe it's time that, I haven't had a losing season, but I haven't really got a Super Bowl here. Maybe it's time to just change, the scenery some.
Sure.
That's kind of what I look at it as. That sometimes you just need to change things up a bit. And that fresh look, fresh set of eyes, watch the game a little bit, kind of like a quarterback, where you're sitting there and you're watching a season go by and you see what's going on. Then you get to pick your spot, because he would literally pick his spot. Any coach would love to, be there. He probably has his eye set somewhere. That's my thought. And he's not going to be able to trade.
If he takes a year or 2 off, that would be interesting to see if maybe he lands in Seattle, because that's about the time Pete Carroll will be moving on, and a new ownership group might be coming in.
Does he have ties to Seattle?
No, but fit wise, it would make sense because of the type of offenses he likes to run, and based on the way Seattle just historically has been. I'm not advocating for it. I'm just saying, like, fit wise, it could potentially work, and timing wise, it could potentially work.
I don't think Pete Carroll nor the Seahawks ever plan to move on from him. I think that guy's going to be there for how many years? Have you seen how young Pete Carroll looks? Dude's like in his mid 70s, look like he's in his early 60s.
Well, so the thing about that is his contract is up after next season.
Yeah.
And there is an extension option on it, so it could potentially go through 25. But you got to remember that Paul Allen isn't around anymore. So Jody Allen is heading this thing up, and they're getting rid of all of the sports, right? Like they're getting rid of all the sports teams. So it's a known quantity that they're going to move on. So if you were going to buy a team, right? Say you had endless cash, you were going to buy a team. Would you want to get one where all the regimes are already in place? And we watched exactly how that happened in Denver and Washington, where they are now firing everybody and bringing in other people, and they're paying coaches out that aren't going to coach. Or would you want to buy a team that you can set all of your stuff up at the same time? You can bring in your coaching, you can bring in your GM, you're the new ownership group. Do you want to set that yourself, or do you want to do potentially the dumpster fire that we just watched on two teams happen? So
I think it also goes back to what you said earlier.
Like Denver? The way Denver did it?
Yeah, well, in Washington, really, right? They come in, they're firing all of the coaches now. They're going to rebuild that team, and Denver, exactly that is. They had Hackett. They're paying him to not coach there. They bring in a quarterback that their new coach clearly doesn't seem to like very much. So they're trying to find ways to move on from. So you've spent all this money and guaranteed money for guys that aren't going to be on your team anymore. So if I was going to be buying a team now, and there's an opportunity to buy the team, and then I can set my lineup however I want as the new owner, I might take that opportunity. And that's just kind of how the Seahawks contracts are all coming due in a time period where they might be looking to sell the team.
But like you said earlier, I would want to see them getting rid of Pete Carroll if they thought there was something else out there that's better than Pete Carroll. And I have not seen a coach out there that's better than Pete Carroll at this time, unless Tomlin maybe comes in big. I mean, this is the same guy that took Geno Smith, the guy that nobody even gave a damn about. Hell, the guy I thought was bagging groceries back into the playoffs, only to put him in some sort of contention. So I don't know how you just get rid of Pete Carroll when he's still playing or coaching at a pretty good level.
No, I agree with that. It'll be whether or not he wants to keep coaching.
Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Right? At 74, you may be kind of over it. Now, I don't know, because Pete Carroll is out there, throwing passes and running wind sprints and stuff.
I mean, this guy don't even look like he's in his 70s. I don't know if we found some fountain of youth or what.
Right. I
mean, it's crazy.
But yeah,
interestingly enough, Tomlin is from Hampton, Virginia.
Okay.
So, which is DC area. So that makes me wonder a little bit. Now, obviously, they're going to need to find a coach right away, unless they're going to try to make a trade for that. That would make sense to me if I was Washington trading. I guess what would you trade? A second-round pick for him?
Nah, you'd be giving up a first. You'd be giving up a first for him.
Maybe a first and Howell.
He's never had a losing season. That's going to carry some weight on negotiations.
Yeah, I think it would be kind of tough to be able to see that. I mean, I don't know. I think that he would have to go away for a season, and I don't expect that he is. Like I said, he's being targeted by the networks. So my expectation is that if they were to lose this week, that he'll probably be on the networks the following weeks, and that will be what really determines. Because I don't think he's going to resign right after the game. He's not going to be like, yeah, I'm done with this. I'm done with football for a few minutes. I'm going to go get paid a lot of money to go talk in the broadcast booth.
Yep.
I mean, And then my next question there, real quick, because we only got a few more minutes left.
Yep.
Would he be considered a Hall of Fame coach?
Of course.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's an easy one. He's got a couple of rings.
Yeah.
Never had a losing season. 17
Mhm.
year tenure as a head coach. A 2-to-1 win ratio.
He's only got one ring, right? He's only got one. He's got one.
I think he's got one with Ben. Cower, I think, had two.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So he's got.
But either way, I mean, he's made it to the pinnacle. He hasn't had a losing season. Yep. I think you almost got to say, especially the amount of years that he's coached, that not have a losing season is incredible.
Yeah.
Well, and go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No.
And I think that the reason why he's been so good is the one thing that I will say that Pittsburgh has been great at is the draft. They have failed. They've failed in free agency, which is, I believe, the reason why he hasn't been able to win a playoff game since 2016. But they have been amazing at the draft. That when you get chosen in Pittsburgh, likely there is I guess maybe like a 37 to 40% chance that you're going to remain in Pittsburgh for your entire career.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a big fan of them drafting Pickett, but other than that, yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I do.
Well, and I think Pickett was like one of those choices where he played at Pitt. He played in that stadium.
Right.
He's very familiar with the area. He was touted as top tier talents, first or second round talent, and you need a quarterback. So why not give it a shot? You know what I mean? I think.
Yeah.
That made sense to me. I didn't think he would be a very good quarterback either, but again, yeah, I'll be honest. I think Pickett would be good with a quarterback whisperer. Like if he had a quarterbacks coach, a real quarterbacks coach, that you would be able to see a lot more from him. But I don't think he's got that right there. I think that's part of the challenge that he has in Pittsburgh is that they don't have a very good quarterback.
Well, Mason Rudolph don't have no damn whisperer, but yeah, he seems to move the ball a hell of a lot more efficiently than Pickett does. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, look at Mason. The dude took a helmet to the side of the head, and he's still playing well.
Well,
maybe that was the difference.
I get it, but he's also been in that. He's also been in that system for 4 years, watching what's going on.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, you're going to know the tricks of the trade.
About 2 more years, maybe Pickett will pick himself up.
Maybe so, but that's if he stays there. I think that he's going to.
Right. I mean, you're right. That's if he stays there.
But yeah, I'm interested to see if what he'll do. I think that you'll see him in the broadcast booth. And then after that, we'll have a better idea. Probably as we get into the championship games, he'll probably make that decision because he won't want to leave Pittsburgh on the hook either. To be like, oh, you're coming back, you're not coming back, blah, blah, blah. It's, because once your season's over, it is a hard stop. But it does have to, you do have to make sure that everything is in motion for the following year. So,
absolutely.
Anyway, anything anybody's got to say before we head out?
I told both of you that Michigan was going to win. Y'all still want to ride that Washington crap train. Good times.
I like that you came in like you were a WWE announcer right there. I told you. Killing me, man.
Hey, but I did like the fact that you shot me that nice, beautiful cold brew beer. I was like, Melanie, look at this. Go get me one of those.
I mean, it had to be big. We were, we were getting kind of messed up right off the jump. So.
Exactly. Well, the only thing I got to say is, hey, listen, we are still booking trips to go down to Tampa. So if you want to travel with the Philly Sports Guy to go to Tampa, go to phillysportstrips.com, mention the Philly Sports Guy, and you'll be able to get booked up. I know that I'm going to be down there, and we're going to be having a good time celebrating a big W, especially after a big L by the Cowboys. So as
Hey, don't forget to catch Pags at about an hour or so on ESPN Network. We're going to talk more about that.
There we go. Well, everybody, thank you very much for hanging with us today and all the comments and everything. And we will see you tomorrow, all three of us, back in the studio again for tomorrow's episode of Coast to Coast. Have a great night, guys.